Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome. Finally, we have returned with the Monday Intelligence Report with shrinkformen.com and avoiceformen.com. I, as always, am AVFM Operations Manager Dean Esme. Joining me is the ferocious, misogynistic, rape apologist, wife-beating Tara Palmatier. How you doing, Dr. T?
Tired from all that wife beating.
Exactly. And, of course, the ever-lovely and cuddleable and gorgeous Paul Elam. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, save for the fact that my feels are hurt because you forgot to mention warm and fuzzy.
Warm and fuzzy. Well, you are fuzzy. I don't know how warm you are. But,
I'm every bit as warm as I am fuzzy.
So we've had our intelligence reports offline for about a month now, just because of the International Conference on Men's Issues, which was an exhausting and grueling and inspiring and amazing affair. And I don't think I felt fully recovered from it until about Thursday of last week. I don't know about you guys, but it was fucking awesome. At least I think it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was. I'm similarly. I don't know if I'm fully recovered yet. I'm still feel a little jet lagged from the whole thing, from the emotional intensity, and then the intensity. It was a month there, I guess, 6 weeks before the event, that most of us were going 16, 20, sometimes 24 hours a day, working on this thing. And I think coming down from that there was a little bit of a nosedive into sleepland and to being apathetic. But I seem to be emerging from that stronger than before, ready to proceed with planning the next conference and taking this to yet another level.
I can't wait to get to Seneca Falls.
Me too. By the way, I was thinking about how an AVFM conference on Women's Rights Boulevard would sit with feminists. Of course, not that I particularly care what they think, but I love sort of watching them do that twitch. You know that twitch when you say things you're not supposed to say and do things you're not supposed to do. Seneca Falls is a great place for a men's conference. It'll take equality and bring it to the women's movement for the first time, and I'll be proud to be a part of that.
And they don't have to like us coming there. They really don't. But anyway, so I guess we have no choice. I kind of didn't want to do this just because I've spent so much time media coverage of our event. Was unprecedented in terms of men's issues coverage. I've never seen so much of it. And so much of it was bad. Yet virtually, some of it was good. Some of it was mixed, some of it was horrific, but even most of the bad press, with one or two exceptions, had to acknowledge that we had legitimate issues. And probably the most stunning thing to happen, in my mind, was Arthur Goldwag of the SPLC finally came out, and for the last 2 years there have been sort of denials of, well, we never called them a hate group. And then Arthur Goldwag recently publicly said, they're not a hate group. That came out of Arthur Goldwag's mouth. He still said some mealy-mouthed things about our supposed misogyny, but he said they're not a hate group. And he was even pushed by one lefty commenter, well, these are mostly white men, weren't they? And he said, no, there were plenty of people of other races and lots of women.
There were times when there was a line in the women's room, which
yeah, I know,
pretty significant.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be spinning around in the women's bathroom all by myself, like Julie Andrews on the mountainside in Vienna.
I didn't.
But I had to wait.
I would say we had a majority male audience, but I would say it was at least 25% women. Mm-hmm. But compare that to your average feminist conference, where they don't even let women in half the time. And a lot of those women were women who've done some fantastic work.
Dean, I think you meant to say where they don't allow men in half the time.
Well, sorry, where they don't allow men in at all half the
One
time.
of the things that I heard Warren Farrell, who is no stranger to organizations like the National Organization for Women and different feminist groups putting on conventions and seminars and speeches, is that in all his years doing that, he had never seen the diversity that he saw at this one conference. He said it was basically tokenism to have, like they would have their one feminist male there who would say very polite things in support of all the real feminists who were there, which were the women, but that basically it was tokenism. However, at our conference, women were helping to run things. They were partnering with us. They were our first three speakers, which, no, did I accidentally schedule three females first? No, I did not accidentally do that. I did that on purpose to make a point, but it's a valid point. This is a diverse movement full of all kinds of different people with different ideas and perspectives. And the fact that the media still, this time, went totally out of their way to misrepresent to millions of readers, which is okay. We're used to scumbags these days. The only question is, we need to have a contest for the scummiest of the scummy, and obviously Turco would win that this time without any effort, but it seems like we may need to have the Golden Banana Award for yellow journalism that we put out once a year to coverage. Oh, and one other thing, let me say, before we launch too much into all these scum buckets that we're doing all this yellow journalism, props to Fox News for their interview of Suzanne Becker, for their actual real coverage and asking real questions and allowing her to answer. Props to USA Today piece on that really showed some balance in addressing. And then we give mini props, little bitty tiny microscopic mini props to Fusion, who really conveyed a bunch of BS in their article, but actually managed to drive home a couple of really salient points. And of course, the rest was garbage from MSNBC to ABC News to whatever. They really were full of.
Ingrid Rojas's videos on Fusion were particularly good. I don't know, I felt much more mixed feelings about Fidel. I can't remember his last names. He was a nice guy. I had much more mixed feelings about some of the spurious talking points in his article, but it was still mixed, positive and negative, so that was good. And her videos were very good, so that was cool.
Yes, you did a good job.
And I am going to repeat my props to Arthur Goldwag. I really am. I was mad at him at first because toward the end he still had to bring up, well, they used to reveal the information of women that they thought were evil, and I thought, okay, another lie about the old Register Her site, which we don't even run anymore. But no, I did remember that with the release of the Agent Orange files, where we had documented certain specific high-profile public celebrities who were advocating horrible things, okay, we did put their information out there, but it's...
And we would do it again.
And we would. But that was still not for the purposes of harassing them. That was for identifying people who were actually advocating really horrific shit.
Hateful bigots who want to murder boys who are elementary school teachers.
Yeah, I mean,
and in positions where they make public policy that affects children.
If I get wind of a group of people that is out there meeting secretly that wants to kill black people or Jews or gay people, and I find out who you are, guess where your names will go? The front page of my website every time. The protection of privacy is something that I do believe in, but there is a limit to it. When you're advocating illegal, violent acts against groups of people and AVFM finds out about it, and guess what? If you happen to call yourself men's activists and you are advocating violence somewhere against women and we find out who you are, we'll put your name on the front page and shame you with the rest of them. This is not something we'll ever retreat from or apologize for.
Yeah, and who's been hurt so far by it? Nobody, because we don't advocate violence and we never have. So and our names are out there. And everything we've ever said, good, bad, no matter how much you put it, what kind of spin you want to put on it, we don't hide who we are. But anyway, one of the things I did notice of the negative coverage, the coverage that tended to be mixed or negative. Andy Bob, one of our favorite commenters, I hope he comes to the next one, to the next conference. He's
Come,
from
Andy Bob.
Australia.
Please come. I want to meet Andy Bob.
I'm going to add to the pressure now to tell people that I have invited Andy Bob to come and to speak at the next conference on men's issues.
I'm going to say something totally heterosexist right now. Nobody can do snark better than a gay man. And
oh, you hater! You hater!
And Andy Bob snarks better than anybody except Isaac Quill, maybe, who's another gay man. But I hope he comes. But Andy Bob, in our comments, he noted something that I thought was pretty funny, which was every piece from Salon to ABC Fusion to Time to Washington Post to almost all of them, except two of the sleaziest, who are probably too low rent to have noticed, all seem to be reading off the same talking points, almost in the same order, referencing the same 2 to 3 year old articles, the very same ones, and saying the same things. I mean, I don't think it's conspiratorial, because we know members of the media do talk to each other, right? Just like we have people we talk to in email.
Well, weren't Adam Sewer and Jessica Roy?
They were openly collaborating on Twitter.
Weren't they? Yeah, they were tweeting at each other during the presentations, were they not?
Yeah, and so this is
like petulant little preteen girls.
I'm actually putting it out there. I believe there is probably a mailing list out there that members of the media are in, and a set of talking points about us, produced by someone or other, were put out, because it was too easy a pattern to keep repeating the same exact old articles, the same talking points from article to article to article, frequently in the same order. Like someone said, this is what you should know. Which is fine. You know, there's old articles that we've written that we sometimes cringe at. There's old articles we also look at and say, well, that was rude, but what was actually incorrect about it? And in any case, do we get to be defined forever by this five or six articles? I liked how Fusion said that you claimed the Bash of Violence Bitch Month article was satire. You claimed it was satire.
Because who would know better what the article is about than, I don't know the person who wrote it? And the fact that it says that it's satire, like, within the first 3 sentences?
That it actually states that it's in response to a Jezebel article where women were celebrating beating up their boyfriends.
And by the way, that article is still online at Jezebel, right?
I did some editing in that article, and I include what I call stupid alerts in it to help the slower thinkers among us for when they get to the Juvenalian satire, those components of the article that are written to intentionally be offensive, to remind them again that it's satire and to turn the stupid switch off in their own mind and understand that they're reading satire. And so I went in with tags in different spots in the article to help point that out for the really, really slow people, which seem to predominate in the media these days, and they still didn't get it, nor did Fusion. Fusion, actually, if they had taken one step in their article, and that would have been to identify that I wrote that article in response to a Jezebel.com article in which the staff, editors, and readers of Jezebel were bragging about physically abusing their boyfriends, that they were not joking. It was not satire. They were happy about it. They were actually glorifying in intimate partner violence. And I wrote a piece of satire intentionally offensive that said, what if we switch the roles and let's sit here and glorify violence against women? The fact that Fusion did not even mention that Jezebel.com, neither does anybody. I mean, you got Matt Bender, that little twerp, and a lot of other people that bring up this article, and they always fail to mention that it is in response to an article at Jezebel that was very seriously advocating and glorifying violence from women against men. And that's what we have in the media. That's what we have all the way through ABC News, through MSLSD, through Fusion, I'm sorry to say, and through all these other major media outlets, these people that are supposed to be journalists. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to turn over the floor for a few minutes. We're going to adopt a new policy for the next year's conference. You will be, if you want, a press pass to the next conference. If you want to interview anybody, we'll let anybody in the press in, and they can stand on the sidelines as long as they're well behaved and don't get out of line. They can stand on the sidelines and take notes. But if you want to interview anybody from ABFM, you will be a minimum of 50 years old. What we are looking for is not guarantee anything. But what we're looking for is somebody that's old enough to remember the concept of integrity in journalism, the concept of doing a story and not injecting your personal bias in it. So if you want to interview me at next year's conference, or if you want to interview any of the speakers at next year's conference, if you want to interview any of ABFM staff at next year's conference, you will not be some pimple-faced little twerp that just got out of a gender studies program and so that's the direction we're going. 5-0 people, 50 years old. Other than that, you can stay in the corner as long as you're well behaved. We'll bring you a banana and a glass of lemonade to keep you company, and you can cover the conference from there.
Damn, Paul, you realize tomorrow's my 48th birthday. That means I don't get to ask questions. Holy shit, you're hard, man.
I'm very hard, but you're not a member of the mainstream media coming to ask questions about ABFM. So you will have somebody at least 2 years your senior if they want to interview you. That's not a joke, folks. I'm not kidding. It's real, and it's going to be a rule that's in effect in next year's conference.
I really liked Ingrid Rojas's filming interviews, actually. She was fair. Her pieces were there.
And to all people, she was fair in her interview. I spoke with her, too, and she was tough-minded, and she was young, but she was fair. She demanded answers to really tough questions, which I totally respect. But the fact of the matter is that we've got to exercise some sort of option here that addresses the fact that most of the people that came in and covered this do not understand the issues that they're covering.
They don't want to either.
No,
they don't want to.
Don't.
No.
And one of the things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
One of the things that I did in speaking to the members of the press whom I spoke to, and I think the only member of the press I enjoyed speaking to is Dr. Helen. Everyone else left a very bad taste in my mouth. But one of the things I did was I flipped their questions around back on them. The one thing several of the journalists I spoke with wanted to know about was, what about all the violent rhetoric against women? It's like, what violent rhetoric? I'm like, every now and again, a wingnut shows up on AVFM or Shrink for Men, and both Paul and I have a policy of absolutely no violent rhetoric. The person is called out, and they're banned. I said, but why aren't you asking feminist groups about the violent rhetoric that they spout, that they don't remove, that they allow to stand? I mean, there was a Twitter hashtag, what was it, Kill All Men. Many Facebook pages dedicated to the hatred of men, the Agent Orange files. And when I asked the reporters these questions, crickets, nothing. No comment.
Well, don't you understand, when women talk about violence, it's always satire. Even Valerie Solanas, who went on a shooting rampage, was just having a moment or something.
Patriarchy made her do it, Dean.
Yeah. Another thing that kept consistently bothering me was the attendance figures. Now, Our attendance figures show clearly we had attendance somewhere in the ballpark of 250, slightly over 250. There's a couple of spreadsheets that don't quite jive, but we had a little over 250 people total attendance over the 2 days. Yet I kept seeing people trying to say that there was barely 100. Someone could see 150. I don't know where they were getting these numbers or pulling them out of their asses. We have the ticket count. We know how many we sold. We saw how many people came in. Maybe I don't know where they kept coming up with these numbers. Maybe they just couldn't count.
They were just making stuff up like they did throughout the rest of their reporting. They just made stuff up.
I think so. Although I will say,
of which there is a fine tradition in feminist research and statistics. So actually, it was par for the course, right?
Maybe if somebody was doing an informal head count, they would notice some of the people that were there on Friday were not there on Saturday, and some of the people that were there on Saturday were not there on Friday. So maybe somewhere nobody thought, oh, wait a minute, okay, but.
Dean, let me ask you something. Since you were so close to the front desk and to where tickets were taken most of the time, and it was your wife that was working that counter, did anybody in the media ever ask you one time for a head count?
Nope. I'll go ahead and double check with the wife if anybody's really curious, but I'm already willing to bet I'm the only one who ever asked her that question because I had to, because we were periodically giving away books and I had to know where we were on the ticket count so that people coming in would have a fair chance at getting one of those free books. Although I think the highest number we gave out was somewhere in the high 170s or 180s. We were well over 220 by the first day. So make it what you will. Actually, no, I think we hit 214 on the first day. And then people kept, and then there was a few more hours after that and more people showed up on Saturday. Whatever. Folks, I'm sorry, but there were more than 250 people at our conference. Deal with it. Not that it should matter. If there were 50 people, it still would have been an awesome conference, especially with the archives online and all that. And the people who were listening to the live stream and the permanent record that's now out there. The event was significant because it happened, because of what was said there. But yeah, whatever. We've still got pieces we know we're expecting to see from, I think, I can't even remember. I hate to, is it GQ or Esquire? It's GQ, isn't it? GQ.
I don't know. That journalist was disingenuous and dishonest. At first he claimed he was writing for GQ, and then after a few drinks, well, it might be GQ, it might be someone else, it might be Rolling Stone. So he was totally full of beans.
Well, there are
Jeff Chalbert, was that his name?
Maybe. I guess we'll see. I've had some email correspondence with him. He's still apparently working on it. And there are freelancers who work in certain circles. I know that Alex Brooklyn, who was there with a crew from Vice, when she had approached me initially, she had said, it's probably going to be Vice, but if it's not Vice, it's going to be one of these couple of others, because I'm definitely doing the story. I don't care what, I'm doing it. And I'm kind of looking forward to her piece. Because I know one thing's for sure about her piece whenever it comes out. She spent 4 months researching the goddamn thing, which is really, even if it's a hit piece, she's either going to have to lie her ass off or she's going to have to really work to come up with whatever negativity she comes up with, because she spent a lot of time there. And she was asking a lot of people a lot of questions. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
I'm going to go ahead and yield then and say that in the case of Alex and Ingrid from Fusion, we'll issue some sort of waiver on the age requirement for interviews at the next conference. Anybody that's demonstrated some willingness to approach integrity, I think we should recognize that. But
may I, on the other hand, just ask that Adam Serwer and Jessica Roy be permabanned?
Done.
Yeah.
Well, Alex was actually frightening many of the attendees, whatever his issues are.
No. Well, there's more than one Alex. Alex Brooklyn was a woman.
Oh wait, I'm conflating Alex Wagner and Adam Serwer from
Adam
MSNBC.
Adam Serwer was freaking people out. He was so angry and so weird. It was clear he didn't want to be there at all, and he just wanted to hurt somebody in some fashion.
Well, next conference he'll get his fucking wish. He won't be there at all.
Yeah, he won't be there. That's right. He won't be. He won't, even if he buys a ticket. No, he'll get his money refunded. What a piece of dirt. What a dirtball.
Another thing, Dean, that we're going to do a little bit differently with the next conference in order to make conference attendees feel a little bit more comfortable and speakers feel more comfortable. We are going to again have a media day where we have a press conference that the media will be allowed to attend for free. They'll be allowed to film, to ask questions, to do interviews on that day. After that, if they want to attend the conference itself, they can buy a freaking ticket and leave their camera in their car, because we are not going to allow their cameras or anything else into the conference proper. They can pay to get in, and they can take notes, and they can leave people the hell alone. But no more free passes into the conference proper for the media. It's sort of like dealing with a kindergarten class. You have to take their privileges away when they start misbehaving. Otherwise, they don't learn how to behave as a group. It's called, you know, negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement, whatever you want to call it. And we will positively reinforce. When the media starts acting like adults and starts doing things like telling the truth and asking relevant questions and reporting without bias, then we'll look at increasing their privileges. That's what you do when you're raising children. And so we'll do that with the media.
And I want to make a point too, because even though, okay, first off, we sent out a warning to our people to watch out for the media, watch what you say, because you will be quoted out of context. And of course, that was taken by some as, oh, they're admitting they're really misogynists and they're telling people not to say misogynistic things. No, we were warning people that they would be quoted out of context. And we saw blatant misquoting of people out of context by Jessica Roy, by Monica Hess, by Adam.
Which is exactly what they did.
Which is exactly what they did to our speakers.
Speaking of which.
Blatantly, wait a second, let me get this out. Blatantly, not only did they do it to speakers like Dr. T, and I know she's got something to say, they blatantly did it to you, they blatantly did it to several, they did it to Terrence Popp, they did it to several of the speakers. But they also did it, I saw it in a few stories, they did it to attendees. Although I'll say they didn't get some of the attendees saying, you know, mean things, but it's like they were looking to make some of these attendees look pathetic. And we're quoting them that way. And it's just like, why would we let people take this kind of abuse, just to come to a conference? That's all. Yeah, Dr. T, you were quoted very much out of context by a couple of sources, weren't you?
Yes, I was. So let me start with Alex Wagner of MSNBC, who wasn't even at the conference, who I believe relied on her colleague Adam Serwer to feed her the screed that she broadcasted. Was it last week, the week before? I can't remember. First of all, Alex, you're supposed to be a journalist. Therefore, learn to pronounce your subject's name before you go on air, because you see, that used to be an old gag on the old Mary Tyler Moore show. The actor Ted Knight played Ted Baxter, not very bright, and he would mispronounce the names of politicians and other people in the news whose names were more than 3 syllables, as mine is actually 4 syllables. So I know it's probably 2 syllables more than you're used to having to say, but you might want to do your due diligence and figure that out. Second of all, this was something that Adam Serwer did in his piece. Serwer,
Serwer, what's the difference?
And honestly, I didn't mean to do it that time. It just came out that way. I did a PowerPoint presentation, which was a compilation of selfies of women that women had taken of themselves that I pulled off the web. Some of them were celebrity selfies. One of these celebrity selfies that seemed to really push some buttons was one of Miley Cyrus. MSNBC Serwer claimed that it was an underage photo. No, it wasn't. It was taken after she was 18. That she took of herself. She appears to be in a bathroom. She's got her shirt lifted up. She's in her underwear. And the caption I created for that selfie was, "Stop objectifying me. You're being rapey." And certain members of the media decided that that was me saying that it's okay for men to rape women who are attired scantily or provocatively.
Double face palm. Double face palm. Just, oh!
So, and this is what Alex Wagner claimed. And then she had some feminist comedian on. I don't know who the heck this woman was. I don't care. Wow. Who actually, I think either the segment was called Mansplaining or the comedian has a website called Mansplaining, and they were commenting on the negativity in the conference, not getting the irony that mansplaining is a very negative term. That would be like me titling what I'm conveying right now, slow child splaining. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done with her yet. Now, that Miley Cyrus image with the caption, "Stop objectifying me, you're being rapey," is not condoning violence against women. It's not me saying that men are entitled to rape women who've got their boobs hanging out or any other parts of their body. What I was commenting upon was the feminist double standard where they claim that part of the patriarchal oppression is how men objectify women, when most of the time, at least on social media, it is women objectifying themselves, you dolts!
You were also accused by Alex and her friends of inventing the word rapey.
Yeah, okay. Now I know that they're just full of bullshit, because that is not a word that I invented. No. That is a word that comes from the femosphere, and it's a word I happen to hate. First and foremost, which I actually mentioned in my presentation. Now, I'm still not done with Alex and
you mean the presentation they didn't listen to?
Yeah. That is correct.
Okay.
So moving on from that point, the next thing that this Alex Wagner person claimed was that I was simply pandering to men, telling them what they wanted to hear so that they would like me.
I'm sorry, but I know Dr. T, and I know the likelihood of her saying things so that men would like her, and I can't stop fucking laughing.
I know. So, okay. So, all right, Alex. No. If you had bothered to do even the tiniest bit of research, my position is that men are human beings, just like women. Men have feelings, men have rights, and they have worth. So the fact that you think my position, that position I just delineated, is me pandering to men, says a heck of a lot more about you than it does about me. That telling men they're human beings and have worth and have a right to be treated with respect and dignity and love and not abused in their primary relationship is pandering to men. What the fuck is wrong with you? Shame on you. And God help your boyfriend or husband if you have one.
We can only hope that she doesn't.
One more thing. One more thing. And then I'm done with Alex Wagner. Actually, that's it.
I'm just going to say, call me a sexist if you will. I never saw a better example of what looked like what they call catty and female relational aggression than those two women sitting around talking about a woman not present that they could have actually easily gotten for their interview, or at least tried to.
Well, I have no interest in talking to either of them now. I remember what it was. Golden uterus. Golden uterus. First of all, you got the concept entirely wrong. I did not coin the term. That term was coined by an anonymous stepmother who'd been through hell dealing with her husband's crazy ex who had been alienating the children and wreaking havoc. So actually it's a term that a lot of women use, most of them second wives, new girlfriends of men who were married to abusive, entitled women. So get your freaking facts straight. You're supposed to be a journalist. Now I'm done.
And it was actually Adam Serwer who was responsible for totally getting golden uterus syndrome wrong. But I delivered a major spanking to him on A Voice for Men. Just search for Adam Serwer on A Voice for Men. Somebody was asking me why we hadn't addressed that. Yeah, we did. Go on avoiceformen.com. You'll see the thorough spanking I gave to Adam Serwer.
And if you, by the way, if you search for Adam Sewer, it'll still pop up.
Just on avoiceformen.com. I gave a spanking to Jessica Roy. Of course, I was accused of going after women because I criticized Jessica Roy for her juvenile high school emotional bullshit, unprofessional bullshit, but I was even harder on Serwer. Not that it should matter either way. They were both the picture of what a bad journalist should be. Well, except for the one person I don't want to spend a lot of time on because I just made a 15-minute video on Bucky Turco. What a moron. Just go look on Paul's channel of the video that John Ribner, one of our writers, and I did, who happens to be the stepfather of my children. But I just want to call out the fact that Bucky Turco works for a company called Woven Digital. And Woven Digital had acquired Animal New York as a property and said that it was part of their collection of websites that they wanted to do reach out and offer services and subjects of interest to young men. And that's what Animal New York is supposed to be. And I just want to call out to Woven Digital's attention what Bucky Turco did. We don't care that Bucky Turco doesn't like what we have to say. He doesn't have to. He's entitled to his opinions. He really is. We don't like his opinions either. But I'm going to say that he grossly misled the readers of Animal New York and was the picture of irresponsible journalism, even worse than Serwer and Roy. He misled his readers, and when we called him out on it, he went on a Twitter campaign that he's been waging for days that is still embarrassing Animal New York, making false claims about this, about A Voice for Men, and about our conference that I actually do think constitute libel. And the people at Woven Digital really ought to look at what they're doing there with that publication. This guy's. I want
to add something into that, Dean. One, I invite the members of Woven Digital, the namesake of this particular hangout on Intelligence Report, to, if they think that we're kidding about any of this or kidding about taking action against people who libel us, or who do the kind of things that Bucky Turco's been out there doing now, you might want to read through, I don't know, a few dozen pages of A Voice for Men, read through some of our articles, read through some of our interactions with people that have demanded we do this and demanded we do that or threatened us with this or that, and ask yourself if you think that we're kidding. ABC News had to retract a piece of libel that they wrote against us. Because we were going to sue them. And so I'm telling you now, members of Woven Digital, I will not be as gracious as Dean Esme was. Bucky Turco did not mislead his readers. He did not grossly mislead them. He lied to them. He lied to all of them. He lied about us. And he did it chronically, and he's still out there doing it. He is a liability to you, which I am prepared to assume that you did not know existed. After today, I'm not prepared to follow that assumption. You must know what Bucky Turco represents, what he's doing, the lies that he's telling, and now if you don't know, it's because you're irresponsible. Last word in public on that one.
Yeah. We could also talk about a certain local Detroit source, but I'm not even going to mention that skeevy little bastard. And his skanky little assistant, because those people just flat out lied too, but that particular local Detroit blog isn't worth our time or energy to even mention by name. It might give them traffic they don't need. Animal New York, on the other hand, deserves the scrutiny. They're actually on a par They're part of a major corporate media enterprise.
They have Animal New York has almost as much traffic as we do.
Almost. Not as much, but almost. And they kind of matter. And Bucky Turco misled his readers. He could have kept everything just fine by just admitting, okay, maybe I should update this, that, or the other thing. In any case, I'm going to mention something else that nobody in the media did, which is that the entirety of the goddamn conference is online. There's a playlist right here on Paul Elam's channel. It's available on A Voice for Men. You can go and look at every single one of those and see if the media is being fully honest with you. Were some inflammatory things said? Yeah, I think the two most inflammatory speakers were probably Aaron Pizzi and Stefan Molyneux. Although even there, I noticed that on the everybody focused on the fact that feminism said that Aaron said feminism is an evil empire. Not a single one during the 2 days that she was there. I mean, she was actually the 3 days. She was there on press conference day, all day. She was there all day on Saturday, Friday, all day on Sunday. Oh my God, she was there all day, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and was easily available for anybody to ask her if a follow-up question is on what do you mean by evil empire. And not a single one approached her and just asked her to explain those two words and what she meant. I'll give it to you now. It has to do with the billions of dollars that she believes have been bilked by ideological feminists spreading a false message about domestic violence. That's what she means. And it would have taken you one question to get that answer out of her. And she could have given you more sources, so could she. But instead, what you all did was chose to quote those two words and laugh and not ask a single follow-up question. The other person that got the most flack and probably said the most inflammatory things was Stefan Molyneux. Although, in my view, he was mostly just doing a comedic routine and trying to make people laugh, trying to make some insightful points. Oh, no, wait a minute. And also Barbara Kay got called out for saying that most women who claim rape on college campuses are really, who they claim are raped on college campuses, are really just having what they call buyer's remorse. But again, I ask, why didn't a single one of those reporters who was there for the entire two-day event walk up to her? She was there. I know. I sat next to her more than once. I talked to her more than once. And say, what the hell did you mean by that?
Because it wouldn't serve their agenda to follow up and ask her what that she meant, or what Aaron Pizzi meant, or what Stefan Molyneux meant by anything that was said. Their agenda was to come in there and grab whatever they could, paint it in the worst light possible, and then sell it to their mouth-breathing readers. That's what the agenda was. It served no purpose to ask follow-up questions, so they didn't.
And that's why we really do need to carefully review who's allowed in from the press, because if you're there were people who are barely making it financially, who barely had enough gas money, or were barely able to scrape up enough money just to get there, let alone afford a ticket. And then you have these pampered, oh, by the way, may I say, mostly privileged white reporters coming in to cover it. You're in there for 2 fucking days, and you can't walk up to a single one of the speakers you're quoting and ask them questions when they were all right fucking there for 48 goddamn hours. You couldn't approach a single one of them. I mean, a few of them got approached, but not many. And of the ones who got the inflammatory quotes that are going all the way over the place, nobody approached them and said, what did you mean by that? Can you really back that up? That's a really big thing to say. I mean, what Barbara Kay was talking about is Cook's statistics, which define any woman who regrets having sex as raped as a rape victim. I'm sorry, any woman, there's statistics out there, they all originate with Mary Koss, but they've made their way into a whole lot of other sources now, whereas if a woman feels that she was pressured into sex, why, by God, she was raped. That's how they've dumbed down the definition of rape. And that's what Barbara Kay was talking about. Why do I have to explain this? Why could not one of these reporters quoting her saying that shit just walk up to her and say, that's an incredibly inflammatory thing you just said, Miss K. Can you back that up in some way? Which would be a reporter's job. I mean, seriously, that would be a tough question. Maybe even if I'm not a very well-informed person and I hear that and I get angry and I'm even shaking a little bit. I can't believe you would say women who are raped are really just regretting it. And I'm shaking with rage that I heard you say that. What would my job as a reporter be? It would still be to walk up to you and say, will you please explain that statement to me? It would be my fucking job, would it not?
If you were a journalist.
Right. Exactly.
Instead of a glorified blogger, you know.
Yeah. Just walk up and say, what do you...
Although I've seen blogs. I've seen blogs that do better research than some of the reporting I've seen post-conference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they say all media is good, good, that there's no such thing as bad media, and I guess that's true. But it's still rather infuriating to see what looks like just pure amateur hour shit from organs in the press. I mean, I know the mainstream press has been having problems because newspaper sales are down, and the internet has, and Craigslist and all that sort of thing has made it harder for enterprises to do journalism like they used to. You know, newspapers are shrinking, but
kind of like what's happened with elementary education.
I guess, but my God, I know I could do a better job covering a feminist conference. I know I could do a better job covering...
The other problem is, Dean, that even though you would be 10 times more objective covering a feminist conference, they would not let you in. And they would not let you ask questions.
Probably not.
There's a problem there.
Dude, but I could walk into a conference of people who are talking about shit I don't even understand, like, I don't know, higher mathematics, and still ask insightful questions, I would think, like, what is the significance of this, and what do you mean by that, and where are you coming from with this assertion? I just...
Well, yeah, I mean, who, what, when, why, how. It's pretty basic stuff.
And who does not mean conflating John Ribner with Dean Esme? Get the who part first.
I didn't major in journalism, but I seem to recall that from like my 4th grade social studies class. Who, what, when, why, how.
I have a new slogan for the people at MSNBC and Time.com and on down the list. And just start getting used to saying this. I'm not a real journalist, but I play one on the internet.
Or cable TV.
Yeah. And I don't want to say they were all like this. There were pieces that were critical of us that were obviously journalists who were...
Najalt.
That's right. Not all journalists were like that. There were even journalists who were critical pretty much across the line, who didn't lie, and who obviously had asked some fucking questions.
But here's the deal, and I'm going to say it no matter what, this needs to be said. I tweeted the other day a graphic from Gallup polls that shows that the percentage of Americans that believe that the mainstream media is credible is under 18% right now. And I mean, it's on a steady plummeting downhill ride on a roller coaster. There is a reason for that, because the mainstream media anymore is just an advertising arm to sell products to women. Part of the knowing that women control most of liquidable spending in consumer culture, and appealing to their resentments toward men, to their feelings of persecution, to the garbage they've been fed in gender studies programs, to what they're doing on a feedback loop with themselves about men and about their existence in the world, is that the way you sell stuff is by making men look like buffoons and making women look like deities. And the press media has gone hand in hand with this, and they've gone right straight to hell in a handbasket, because they know that for 1 minute if they got up and started telling the truth, if they came in and covered this conference honestly, it would start costing them with female consumers who don't want to hear the truth.
Well, and
there's reasons to question whether the marketing industry is actually right in those assumptions that you just made. But
well, that's true. But I'm just saying that from what I think is their perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we give a little love to Monica Hess of the Washington Post?
Give her a little love.
I am being sarcastic.
I was stunned by Monica Hess's piece. I really was. I was particularly stunned by what she said about Terrence Popp's piece, but I'm going to save my comments on that for at least a little bit. She got so much wrong, I don't know where to begin. I really don't. What do you want to say about Monica Hess?
Well, what I found interesting is that she spent a decent portion of her time with me expressing her hurt feelings about how AVFM, and in particular Paul Elam, depicts the mainstream media.
Really?
And then just as a personal anecdote from the interview, perhaps I shouldn't share this clearly feminist, independent feminist reporter, a bug landed on her sleeve. We were sitting outside the VFW on a picnic bench, and she became unglued with this winged bug on her sleeve. So I flicked it off of her sleeve. Perhaps I touched her inappropriately, but and then she felt bad, of course, because she had to rely on me to remove the bug from her sleeve. You know, I am woman, hear me squeak when a bug lands on my sleeve. And I do want to apologize to her, however, because I tried to make an empathic and reassuring statement. And I said, oh, don't worry about it. That's okay. I've been plucking ticks off my pit bull's butt all summer. What I should have said, one of my moderators on the forum said, okay, you need to lose your attitude with the press because you just told her, don't worry about it. I removed ticks from my dog. What I should have said was, it's okay, Monica. We all have our things. If a snake had slithered across my foot, or a rat had scurried across my foot, I would have screeched out loud too. Of course, a rat was interviewing me, but whatever. Ooh, snap!
Oh no, you didn't.
I did, but I kept my shit together. So that was an interesting interview.
So she spent much of her time talking about how her feelings were hurt because we were hurt. Paul was hard on the media. Okay. You know what? Here's the other.
And I will say, I
tell you what, Mike Wallace, you can just forget about it. Monica Hess is in town.
This is something I've mentioned in one of my articles too, and I'm going to stick with it. And this is something we've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. This is another thing the press needs to know. Bucky Turco has just discovered it, but he's not the first. When you're a member of the press interviewing us, you're being interviewed too. And that's the fucking truth. What you say in an interview, what you ask in an interview, you ask stupid questions, you make stupid statements, expect to see that in print or hear it somewhere else, because we're part of the media too. And when you're interviewing us, we're interviewing you.
And in this case, for instance, with Bucky Turco, what he said, his behavior, everything he did at Animal New York ended up having a light shown on it at a website that has more traffic than he does.
Was he even at the event?
He attended the press conference.
Okay.
And he argues that having attended the press conference means that he was able to write an article called Inside the International Conference on Men's Issues.
But no attendees were there. That's just a...
Well, and it's, as Janet Bloomfield pointed out, it's sort of like going to the press conference for the Oscars and then to say you were there for Best Picture.
Or like saying, I've watched every episode of Star Trek 3 times, therefore NASA should hire me.
And I was on Vulcan.
You know what? You can get into parsing the semantics. The fact is, he gave his readers the impression he had really gone and covered the conference, and he really didn't. He went to a press conference and
covered something, but
and then he admitted He admitted he felt everything was so stupid he would never want to listen to more than 5 minutes of anything anybody there had to say. He fucking admitted that. I'm not going to go over it again. You can go find that online. The bottom line is we're the press too now, and you're going to have to get used to it. We're not just looking to you to tell the world about us. You come to talk to us. You're honest. Great. We'll answer your questions. You lie. You twist. Expect to see your name in print because you're gonna, or expect to hear your name here because you're gonna. That's all I got to say. And now we've gone 55 minutes. This is way too damn long. Anybody have any parting thoughts?
Yes, I do. I want to say, one, that if a bug landing on your sleeve gives you the EBGBs, you might want to think about a career other than journalism, particularly where it gets into the realm of gender politics, which can get a little bit brutal and nasty. But just saying, if that really just freaks you out, maybe you should be writing about kittens or something like that. I know we have other feminist bloggers that do that. I want to, again, extend a thank you. We have to say thank you where it's due, and I'm really needing to get thank you cards printed up. I want to remind members of the mainstream media. I want to remind Monica Hess. I want to remind, forget them all. By name, there's too many of them, so many assholes, so many opportunities. But I want to remind you to keep doing what you do. Because when you write about ABFM or you write about me, which I don't care, or you write about Dean Esme or Tara Palmatier and you take them out of context, you are driving people to our message. And they, the ones that can think, the rational thinkers among them, the people with critical thinking skills and the abilities to look at what you said and what we're actually doing and see the difference, will figure out that they've been lied to. We have grown exponentially off of that for 6 years now. And we will continue to grow as long as you're stupid enough to lie. Now, if you start telling the truth, you will send people to our website. They will say, they told me the truth. Here's what's here. Now I can trust this source as a credible news source and take heart that if they tell me something about a website, that it's probably true, because sure enough, they told me something about ABFM, and I went here and I found out the truth. So no matter what you do, you're going to help us grow. And why? Because the men's movement, the idea of men as human beings, as Dr. T very eloquently said, men being human beings with worth, with their own feelings, with their own needs, with the own need for recognition for the problems that they face in this culture as men and boys. It's an idea whose time has come. You can't squeeze toothpaste back into the tube. You can't turn the clock back 50 years, no matter how bad that you want to, no matter how much of a career or a living that you built up off of demonizing men and ridiculing their issues. You can't get rid of the plain basic fact that every issue we addressed in that conference is real. It's backed by substantive research. It is backed by people who have really thought about these things and who really care about these issues, and we're growing. So your choice now is, do you want to become, I talked in the press conference about Tommy Lewis and his and another athletes raising their fist as the national anthem played at the Mexico City Olympics in 1968 as they won Olympic medals, and how shocked and outraged that people were, and how Time magazine even persecuted and mocked them for it, and how they got death threats. And now, of course, we look back and we see that we were looking at civil rights heroes who were speaking up about real problems that needed to be faced that the culture would rather just look the other way from. Well, we're at that point now with men and boys. They are falling out of schools. They are suiciding at alarming rates. They are being mistreated unbelievably in family courts at levels that drive men to suicide and that disenfranchise children from their parents and rip them away and shred their lives. There are all these things that are actually really happening, and I'm sorry to say that feminist ideologues are not addressing these issues because they're too busy demonizing men. So we're at a point now where this change is happening. You don't have anything to say about it. You can't write a bunch of spin and a bunch of bad stories about the people in this movement and stop anything. As a matter of fact, you're fueling more of it. But the question is where do you want to be when it comes down to where you're going to land, on the right side or the wrong side of history? Right now, many of you are insisting on landing on the wrong side. I encourage you to examine that, to think about these issues, to go back and instead of just abandon the agenda that you came there with to the conference and go back on YouTube right now to my channel and look at the fucking conference. Look at everything that was said there. Look at every speaker. Listen to all their speeches. Go do research. See how many people you catch in lies. See how many people who are telling you things that aren't happening. And then ask yourself, what am I doing writing about these people as though they're a group of haters? What is wrong with me that I'm doing this? That's just a suggestion. But either way, we're going to roll right on, and we will see you next year at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2 at a city soon to be announced.
And I'll just add 2 more things. And if you ignore us, we'll keep growing too, because the power of social media and word of mouth and the reality of what's happening is still going to drive people to this issue. And also, if that talking points memo was circulated in the press, somebody please get it to me. I'm convinced it exists and it was circulated. We'll see. We'll see. That's not a conspiracy. Shit like that happens. We know that the professional press works that way. Finally, Dr. T, I give you the last word.
Stay classy, MSNBC.
See you all next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.